protecting the rights of Dalits and Adivasis. In addition to politics, our country also has specific laws that guard against the discrimination and exploitation of the marginalized communities. Let us read the following case study adaptation from the real life account to understand the Dalit use the protection that the laws provide. The villagers of Jakmalgar are gearing up for a big festival. Once in 5 years, the local deity is honored and the priest for 20 neighboring villages come for the 5-day event. The ceremony begins with a member of the Dalit community washing the feet of all the priests and then bathing in the water used for this. In Jakmalgarh, the person who performed these tasks belonged to the Ratnam family. His father and grandfather both have performed the same task before him. Though they are never allowed to enter the temple, this ritual was viewed as a great honor bestowed on them on this special occasion. Now it was a Ratnam Chand. Ratnam was all of 20 years studying engineering in the nearby college. He refused to perform the ritual. He said that he had no faith in this practice and his family members were forced to perform this ritual because they were Dalits. Ratnam's refusal angered both the powerful caste in the village and some families from his own community. The powerful caste were shocked that such a young boy has the guts to refuse. They believed that it was Ratnam's education which allowed him to imagine that he could start comparing himself with them. Those from Ratnam's own caste were fearful of angering the power. Many worked on this field as the daily wages labor. If the dominant caste decided to not call them, then what would they earn? How would they survive? They also declared that the Vrata of the local deity would strike them if they refused to give in. Ratnam argued that given that not a single Dalit have even entered the temple, how could the deity be angry with them? So, here's a picture of Kabir. You may have read the Kabir's poem in your language textbook. Kabir was a 15th century poet and a weaver who also belonged to the Bhakti tradition. Kabir's poetry spoke about his love for the Supreme, being free of ritual and priest. It also expresses his sharp and pointed criticism of those he saw as powerful. Kabir attacked those who attempted to define individuals on the basis of their religion and the caste identity. In his view, every person had the ability to reach the highest level of spiritual salvation and the deep knowledge within themselves through his own experience. His poetry brings out the powerful idea of the equality of all the human beings and their labors. He writes about valuing the work of the ordinary potter, the weavers, and the women carrying the water pots. Labor that in his poetry becomes the basis of the understanding the entire universe. His direct, courageous challenge inspired many, and even today, the Kabir's poetry is sung and appreciated by the Dalits, marginalized group, and those critical of the social hierarchies in the UP, Rajasthan, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar, and Gujarat. The powerful caste decided to teach the Ratnam a lesson. His community was ordered to ostracize him, and his family and everyone were told that no one should speak or do any work for them or with them. One night, some man entered this part of the village and set his hut on fire. He managed to escape with his mother. Ratnam then went to file a case in the local police station under the Scheduled Caste and the Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Other Dalit family still did not come out in his support as they were scared that similar fate might await them if they spoke out. The case was picked up by the local media that led to many journalists visiting the village. Ratnam was written about a symbol of Dalit action. The ritual was called off, but his family was forced to move out as they continued to be ostracized by the powerful caste in the village. In your opinion, does the force put on the Ratnam to perform this ritual violate his fundamental rights? Why do you think the Dalit families were afraid of angering the powerful caste? The Scheduled Caste and the Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Ratnam sought the support of law, filing his complaint under the above law to act to protect against the domination and the violence of the powerful caste and his village. This act was framed in 1989 in response to demand made by the Dalits and the others that the government must take seriously the ill treatment and the humiliation Dalits and the tribal groups face in everyday sense. While such treatment had persisted for a long time, it has acquired a violent character in the late 1970s and in the 1980s. During this period, in the part of southern India, a number of assertive Dalit groups came in to bring and assert their rights. They refused to perform their so-called caste duties and insisted on being treated equally. Like Ratnam, they refused to follow the practice located in the humiliation and the exploitation of Dalits. This resulted in the more powerful caste unleashing the violence against them in order to indicate to the government that untouchability was still being practiced, and in the most hideous manner. Dalit groups demanded the new laws that would list the various sorts of violence against the Dalit and prescribe the stringent punishment for those who indulged in them. Likewise, throughout the 1970s and the 1980s, Adivasis people successfully organized themselves and demanded equally rights for their land and their sources to be returned to them. They too had to face the anger of the powerful social groups and were subject to a great deal of violence. That is why this act contains a very long list of crimes, some of which are too horrible even to contemplate. The act does not only describe the terrible crimes but also lets people know what dreadful deeds human beings are capable of. In this sense, laws such as this seek to both punish as well as to influence the way we think and act. The Act distinguishes the several levels of the crime. Firstly, it lists the modes of humiliation that are both physically horrific and the morally reprehensible and seeks to punish those who forced a member of a scheduled caste or the scheduled tribe to drink or eat any inedible or the obnoxious substances. Second is possibly remove the clothes from the people from the persons of a member of the scheduled caste or the scheduled tribe or parade him or her naked or with painted face or body or commits any similar act which is derogatory to the human dignity. Secondly, it lists the actions that disposes the Dalit and Adivasis of their merged sources or which force them into performing the slave labor. Thus, this act sets out the punish any more who wrongfully occupy or cultivates any law owned by or allotted to a member of scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe, or to get the land allotted to him transferred. At another level, the Act recognizes that the crime against the Dalit and the tribal women are of a specific kind and therefore seeks to penalize anyone who assaults or uses a force on any woman belonging to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe with intent to dishonor her. Can you list two different provisions in the 1989 Act? Look at the glossary and write in your own words what do you understand by the term morally reprehensible. Pandit, look in your heart for knowledge. Tell me where untouchability came from, since you believe in it. Mix red juice, white juice, and the air. A body bakes in a body. We eat by touching. We wash by touching. From a touch, the world was born. She who's untouched, asks the Kabir, only she who is free from delusion. In this poem, Kabir is challenging the priest by directly questioning at him about where the untouchability came from. He asks the priest to look for the knowledge in his heart and not in the scriptures. Kabir's goes on to describe how every human body is made of the blood and the air and has spent 9 months in the mother's womb. And this everything in the world is created by touching something, whether it is a pot, a human being, or a painting. He takes the word untouchable and gives it a very different meaning. He exclaims that untouchability is the highest state of knowledge. It means not be touched by the narrow, limiting ideas. Therefore, Kabir finally turns the idea of untouchability on its head from the lowest to the highest state that a human being can achieve.